Marketing to different segments of your audience, because yes, there is a right way and a wrong way to do this. So I talk to people a lot who deal with this. Sometimes a great example is realtors, right? A lot of realtors work with both sellers and buyers, and there's a lot of overlap there, obviously. But there's also some distinct differences in what they're looking for when they're looking for someone to help them buy a home or sell a home or buy their office or sell their office or lease or whatever it is they're looking for. There's always a little bit of a difference there. I've also run into realtors who do both residential and commercial. That's definitely a big difference, right? Because now they're looking for very different things. So you have to be able to speak to that not only when you're talking to them, but also in your marketing content. So this, I'm going to talk about how to market to different segments because yes, it can get a little bit tricky, but if you're strategic and intentional about it, it can be really effective. So first and foremost, define your segments. Who is it that you're talking to when you're talking to about whether it's a product? Sometimes you're dividing up based on products. Sometimes, like I said, you're helping someone sell versus helping someone buy. Sometimes, yeah, I, for example, do a lot of marketing strategy work. I also do a lot of writing for my contents for my clients. There's a lot of overlap there. Sometimes I'm doing both for the same client, other times it's different. So, how do I talk about one service over the other, one group of clients over another group, right? So that's something that you need to think about. So first of all, define your segments. Their demographics are a huge part. Age range, gender, where they're hanging out, where they physically hang out, where are they physically located, and where they're hanging out online, depending on the services you provide. Geographic location might be very important, such as real estate, or if you're an attorney who's only licensed in one or two states, right? Other times, like me, I work with people all over the world, right? So I was just talking to a guy in Boston. So we can absolutely do business together. There is no reason that the fact that I'm in Chicago should prevent that because computers are a thing. The internet is a thing. It's very easy, but it totally depends on your industry, right? So sometimes that geographic location is very important. So those are all the demographics. Income is another part of demographics, right? Then you've got their psychographics. Then you've got, well, how are they thinking about this problem? How are they talking about this problem? That's the kind of thing that you really need to dig deep into because that will tell you what kind of language you need to use in your marketing content, what's really going to resonate with someone. I, for example, work with corporations and I work with solopreneurs. They use very different language to talk about their problems, to look for solutions to their problems. So it's very different in terms of how I need to approach them. But a lot of the problems that I solve are the same. So there's some overlap there. So first and foremost, define your ideal client. And if you need any help with how to create a marketing persona, that's essentially what each of your segment is. They're going to be recognized, they're going to be represented in your marketing, in your brand guide by a marketing persona. Every company, it's pretty standard to have 2 to 3 marketing personas. You might have more if you're a larger company going for a lot of different segments that you might need to add on some marketing personas there. So if that is something you need help with, that is something that I provide. I can do some market research and help you get some marketing personas. There's also more videos in my library, if you have not checked that out already, about how to DIY your marketing persona, what you need to look for, and what goes into your marketing persona. Next up, find the through line. So sometimes it's the services that you provide, right? Sometimes it's, yeah, I can provide all of these services to these different segments. So that's the through line. Think of them as siblings, right? They don't have to be identical twins for people to see that they're related. So going back to the example of the realtor trying to market to both buyers and sellers, the through line there is pretty obvious. You need someone who knows houses or offices if they're commercial real estate, right? They have to understand the marketplace if they're going to help you get the best result. Other times it's the opposite problem. You have a suite of services you can offer to all your clients, and you need to figure out how to talk about each service to help your audience understand what they need. So regardless of how your audience is divided, the key is consistency in your messaging. Your messaging always has to sound the same. And the way to do that is to have your brand voice guidelines. So if you are unfamiliar with what a brand voice guideline is, I have a whole other video on creating your brand voice guidelines. You can go check that out. That is Also something I help my clients with. So if that's something you just want done for you, let's talk. But you got to have those brand voice guidelines because they maintain consistency throughout all of your content, your social media, your website, your emails with prospects and clients. All need to look, feel, and sound the same. That is how people know they're talking to the same person, right? It's like when you call someone, have you ever gotten like a message from a friend that's a little weird and you're like, honey, I think you might have been hacked because this does not sound like you. That's when you start to worry about that person. And you're certainly not going to respond to that message, right? You're going to use another channel to let your friend know that you think they got hacked. So it's the same thing with your messaging. If it sounds like one company when they're on one channel and a different company entirely when they encounter you on a different channel, there's going to be some confusion there and they're not even sure they're dealing with the same person. It might be an AI, but on the other hand, on the other end of the internet line, they're just not sure. And that's going to make them hesitant and then they're not really going to want to buy from you. So maintaining that consistency is really important for making sure that you make people feel comfortable. They know what to expect. They feel like they know you. It's a huge part of building trust with your audience. It's an overlooked part because it's subtle and people don't really realize that that's an aspect of gaining trust. When they if you ask someone why they trust someone over another, they're never going to tell you they always sound the same or I always know what I'm getting. They might say I always know what I'm going to get from them, but that consistency in messaging is not something that registers on a conscious level. It registers on a subconscious level, which actually makes it more powerful. So maintain first of all, have your brand voice guidelines and then maintain them throughout all of your messaging anytime you're communicating with clients online. And then create your content calendar. So your content calendar does a few things, right? So when you're just kind of helter skelter, like, oh, I need to post something on social media this week. What am I going to write about? I don't know. Someone the other day was telling me about such and such or asking me this question, and that's something I can write about. I'll just do that. There is value in that because I do always recommend taking from conversations you're having with people in real life and putting them into your marketing content. Because if people are asking you those questions in real life, they are probably also wondering about those things online as well and looking for answers. So do that to an extent, but it's much more effective if you can plan. And the problem with that is you tend to zero in on one segment over another, and you tend to kind of forget the other ones are there, right? I was just doing this with my own content where I was like, oh, I haven't talked about SEO in a while, have I? I might want to get back to talking about SEO so people don't forget that that's something that I do, right? So make sure, yes, we all have services that we tend to offer that we work with more than others. We have segments that we work with more than others. It's okay to play favorites here, right? They're not your kids. You can have a segment that you work with more than another. But so you can absolutely market to that more than your other segments, but you don't want to completely forget about those other segments. You do still want to touch base with them and remind people, hey, I also do this, whether it's the service you're providing, the segment that you're trying to market to, or both. Make sure that you're touching base with those once in a while, so that people don't forget that that's a thing that you do. That's that consistency. That's how you keep your funnel full. If you don't do that, that's why people suddenly are not coming to you for that service anymore because they forgot that that's a thing that you did because you have not talked about that in forever. So I do recommend beginning of the month is a great time to get that calendar, your content calendar created for the whole month. That's enough time to give you time to plan and you can create all your content and schedule it and have it all out to go, ready to go. If you can do 3 months, that's a lot of content, but if you can do that in one go and then you're good to go for 3 months, that's great. 6 months feels really good, except by that things are changing so fast these days that something that's long enough for your content to feel outdated. If people are asking about such and such, if a new technology or a new issue pops up in the marketplace and you're not addressing it, it's going to feel really weird. So 1 month is good, 3 months, kind of pushing it, but you can get away with it. 6 months and longer is, I know it would be great to plan out our marketing for the year, but there's just no way to do that and still be agile and responsive to the marketplace. So make sure that not only are you touching throughout the month on each of your offerings that you provide, but also that you are touching on each of your segments and talking to each of those segments throughout the month. It does not have to be, each segment does not need equal representation. Like I said, if you have one you work with more than the other, that's fine. Talk to that segment more in your marketing content than the other segments. Just make sure you're not completely neglecting those other segments. So that's it. That is my tip for you today. And if you have any questions, need any help creating your brand guide, creating your marketing personas, any of that, I'm always happy to help. You can get more info. Like I said, if you want to DIY, you can get more information on how to do that here on my YouTube channel or over on my website, AV as in my initials, Allison Verhalen, avwritingservices.com. And you can reach me directly at info@avwritingservices.com. That's it. Have a great weekend. Happy blogging, everyone.